My name is Ruby Patterson. I have a Bachelor of Science in Geology, a Master of Science in Geology, and I'm just about to finish my PhD also in geology. I decided to go to graduate school because I knew that even though I learned so much in my undergraduate degree and I took a ton of different classes, I hadn't specialized in any one thing in particular. And I had really big dreams of working on space missions and becoming a NASA scientist. And I knew that I couldn't do that unless I pursued a graduate degree. That I chose my graduate program is that they made me a really nice offer. So I applied to several different graduate programs. One of them said, we would love to have you, but you have to pay for all of your classes yourself. Another one never got back to me. And then the third one said, not only do we want to have you here at this school, we'll also pay for all of your classes. We'll give you a stipend and we'll help you with health insurance. And so for me, that was a no-brainer. I ended up going to University of Arkansas for a master's. For my master's degree, I was very into the idea of off-Earth mining, and I really wanted to specifically focus on the possibility of mining asteroid materials. And so the University of Arkansas gave me full reign of experimenting on and with their meteorite collection. And I thought, okay, a master's in geochemistry working on meteorites is going to be the best thing I could possibly do. And it turns out that I actually didn't like that research at all. And so I switched focuses completely between my master's degree and my PhD. My doctoral work is focused on exploration science of other planets and our moon. So I work supporting the Artemis mission, which will put the first woman and the first person of color in the lunar South Pole region. And so I have worked to help develop astronaut tools for them to use on their field campaign, because really that's what they're going to be doing up there. They're going to be having an insanely cool field experience in the lunar South Pole region. And then I've also worked with the Curiosity rover science team to help with some of their results and do some analog lab experiments. But I also have partnered with NASA and the Icelandic Space Agency to establish a new environmental analog site in the Western volcanic zone of Iceland. And so I completed that field expedition last summer, which was life-changing. And it was in the moment where I was on the side of a rhyolitic volcano sampling, where we had an earthquake happen, where I thought, wow, this is one of the most extreme and coolest jobs anyone could ever have. Being a geologist is certainly a unique experience that I'm very grateful for. The main objective of my research is ultimately to support really massive mission science campaigns. And so missions have thousands and thousands of people working on them. There's people that are building hardware and spacecraft. There's people that are creating software. There's people that are performing analog experiments on Earth to help prepare the astronauts to even go up onto the moon. There's people that are doing analog experiments on Earth to support robotic campaigns on Mars and on other planets. And the objective is to be a cog in the wheel of a really beautiful, well-oiled machine. The value of the research that I've done, I'll take my Icelandic field campaign as the perfect example of this. There's the obvious reason that I went, which was to support the Curiosity rover science team by performing an environmental analog experiment where I was doing research and looking at Iceland as if it were Mars. I wasn't thinking like I was on Earth. I was thinking, okay, if this situation was happening on Mars, and having to consider it that way. But a secondary benefit to studying a subglacial volcano in Iceland is that you also have these research themes that have to do with hazard mitigation, because this is a very volcanically active area in Iceland. And then you also think about the people that live there. And the volcanic complex that I was working on is a subglacial volcano. So there was a volcano or a glacier that had prevented the subsurface magma chamber from erupting for so long due to overburden pressure that the volcanic chamber below was able to fractionate and evolve to the point where all of the really dense mafic materials sunk and all of the really rich evolved volcanic products were able to rise. And so all of the eruptive products were silicic, like really, really silica rich. And these are highly explosive eruptions, and they're extremely dangerous to the people that live in and around this area. And so they're becoming these eruptions are happening more and more on Iceland. You may have seen in the news, a lot of these eruptions are happening. And so an added benefit is to understand what's going on in this place that people know and love and like to vacation to. So it was cool to work with the Icelandic Space Agency on that project because they live there, they work there, and their families are there. So they care about a whole different facet of this research beyond just space exploration, which inspires humans, but if space exploration didn't exist, nothing on Earth would change. So there is this whole other element to the research. Oh, my favorite aspect of the graduate experience would have to be exploiting my student status to get meetings with people that ordinarily probably would not give me a chance. I use my student email like a deadly weapon. I cold email people from my student account day and night, and I ask for mentorship and advice. I ask for virtual coffees, and I have never been turned down, actually. People always will say, yep, I really admire that you're a student reaching out, and I would love to have a 15-minute virtual coffee with you. And so that is probably my favorite experience so far. It feels like a secret that nobody knows, but if you're watching this and you're looking for a way to expand your network and meet with people that are kind of intimidating to you, just ask them for a virtual coffee and they'll probably say yes. The most challenging aspect of completing my degree was being really, really poor. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, it's very, very hard to not work a full-time job while going to school and just living off of a TA stipend or an RA stipend. If I could go back and do it again, I would have taken a little bit of time between my bachelor's and master's degree to save money and then get a job that could potentially just pay for my school. And it would have taken me a little bit longer to graduate, but I think the financial burden would have been so much less because that's a whole other, if you think of the graduate experience as an onion, like the financial stress is like the biggest layer. It like encompasses everything else. And so if you're stressed out about like paying for gas or paying for rent or groceries, that it makes it harder to pay attention in classes and it makes it harder to focus on research. I enriched my graduate experience by doing all of the activities. If there was any event, I was there. If there was a club, I was the president. If there was an opportunity to help with a fundraiser, I was leading it. I mean, it was probably very annoying to other people that were around me, but it has paid off a lot because you get to have fun and be really, really active in your community. I've presented at many different conferences. I started out with posters and then graduated to giving talks, and now people ask me to give talks and they pay me to give talks, which is really cool. And so it's been fun to see the progression of where it started in my undergraduate experience and now where it's paid off in my professional experience. My graduate courses directly prepared me for a career in geoscience. I would never have worked at NASA Johnson Space Center as a Mars geochemist had I not gone to graduate school. They would not have even accepted my application, probably. I mean, I would never have gotten an interview. But the technical knowledge that I gained through graduate courses was something that was not immediately available to me in an undergraduate degree. I could have possibly been in classes with graduate students, but the mindset is different as a graduate student, and you have different priorities when you're in classes as a graduate student. And so it is absolutely essential, especially if you want to go into a position of leadership, I would say, within a geoscience career, that you get a little bit of extra training and you get a little bit of extra specialization through a graduate program. A lot of undergraduates have asked me whether grad school is worth it. And I always ask them to sit down alone in a room get out a piece of paper and a pen, or just sit with their laptop in an open Word document and turn your phone off, put your phone away. And I would say, write out what you want from your life, because graduate school is not for everybody. It's for a lot of people, but it's not for everyone. And there's a lot of different types of graduate programs that are available to you. And so what you should do when you sit down and you start thinking about what you want out of your life, you should really think about how much you want to be paid, what you want your lifestyle to be like. What type of work day do you want? Do you want to be in the field? Do you want to be in a lab? Do you want to be teaching? Do you want to work with other people? Do you hate working with other people? Do you want to work on a team? These are all really important things to know about yourself and to be really honest about with yourself. And this all paints a really nice picture of a potential career that you can have. You may not know exactly where you want to end up, but you can definitely figure out a pathway to get to the lifestyle you want just by getting rid of some qualities of a work life that you do not want. Like, for example, I love working on teams, and I am not very successful when I'm not collaborating with other people. So when I was at Johnson Space Center and I was working alone in a lab for days and days and hours with a murder podcast in my ears, I wasn't necessarily the most productive and the most happy. But now that I'm working with teams, doing consulting for space companies, I'm extraordinarily happy because I am now social and I'm able to use my charisma and my natural gifts in the professional setting. And so if I had done that exercise before I ever went to graduate school, I think it may have potentially affected which classes I signed up for and what type of opportunities that I went for, because I didn't quite understand at the time when I was choosing a graduate program what options would be limited by going through a really hardcore research program. Most important advice that I could give to somebody that is considering attending graduate school is to believe beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are smart enough to get through it. Graduate school is very challenging. It's very different than an undergraduate degree. And there is not a single person I've ever been in a graduate course with that at some point did not feel insecure or like they weren't cut out for it. Nobody makes it through graduate school without a little bit of struggle in one way or another. And the best advice I could ever give you is to know that what you're feeling is totally normal. The struggle is going to be there regardless, and your attitude and your mindset completely changes your experience, and it 100% dictates your future and what career you end up going into. I would like to also add that if anyone that's watching this wants to connect with me online, or if you have any other questions about my career path or how I went from being a geology student to working at NASA Johnson Space Center to now working as a consultant for space startups, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. My name is Ruby Patterson, and you can also find me on Instagram as Ruby the Space Geologist, and I would be more than happy to chat with you.